Hello everybody and welcome to the channel. My name is Plami, and in this episode of TV series reviews, I'm gonna be reviewing the 17th episode of the 10th season of my favorite show, The Walking Dead. Now, before we get into the review, there are a few things that I just want to quickly point out. First of all, I think a lot of you are going to be new to my channel getting into this video because this is going to be the first time kind of that I've talked about The Walking Dead and specifically reviewed an episode of The Walking Dead. At least in the last like 3 or 4 months, because I did review the supposed season finale of season 10 back when it was released. You can check out the video on my channel, which is also when I actually started doing these episode reviews properly. Before that, I wasn't really doing them. But yeah, I started doing them back then, and I've done reviews for every single episode of Fear the Walking Dead Season 6 that has been released so far, and the first season of World Beyond as well. Currently, I am going through Fear the Walking Dead and reviewing it episode per episode, although again, I haven't reviewed an episode in about a month. So yeah, you can still check out all these videos, but going forward, I will be reviewing every single episode of The Walking Dead. And a few thoughts that I also have to say about Season 10 before we get into the review for this episode is that Season 10 I feel like wasn't really as strong as Season 9. For me, Season 9 is one of my favorite season, period. It's like top 3, debatably my favorite season. It was just so good, filled with so much content, and the tone of it felt so good. Like, it felt realistic and horror-like, and I love it. In Season 10, I feel like the show kind of went backwards a little bit to a more similar tone to Season 7 and Season 8, where it was a little self-indulgent and focusing on Gimpo speak. And if you don't know what Gimpo speak, why the hell are you even watching a review? Like, how are you even a fan of The Walking Dead if you know that? But for those of you who don't know, Gimpo speak is whenever a character in the Walking Dead universe goes on a long-winded speech about the life, the way life is now, or some sort of, some kind of speech in general. And I feel like in Season 10 they kind of went backwards and started doing it a little bit more, because that was pretty much completely gone in Season 10. And even things like the Whispers, I feel like the take that they had on the Whispers in Season 9 was much more scary, and it was much more terrifying and realistic and gritty, while in Season 10 they make them much less interesting to watch. I gotta say, it felt kind of boring. They just made them some philosophical horror villains or something like that. I just really didn't like it. But overall, I still enjoyed Season 10 for the most part. There was still a lot of good dialogue, a lot of good scenes that I'm going to talk about at some point whenever I get to reviewing Season 10, which is probably going to be a long time from now, but I will do it eventually. So going into Season 10C, which is these 6 episodes, I wasn't really too hopeful when we first heard about them, but after seeing the trailer for these 6 episodes, I was actually super hyped. It seemed like it was going to be super interesting and super entertaining, and definitely more it was definitely more exciting than I felt for most of Season 10. Even though I still enjoyed Season 10 a lot, and much more than Season 7 and 8. But I gotta say, getting into this episode, it's less exciting than I thought. And I'm gonna explain to you why. First, we're gonna start off with the positives of this episode. I feel the tone of this episode is actually much more in line with Season 9 than it was with Season 10. I don't know if it's just because Maggie is back, so I'm kind of getting a little nostalgic about Season 10 and it feels more like it. I don't know, maybe it's just the fact that the Whisperers are gone and now we have this new villain group called the Reapers, who feel much more realistic villains because they're like some kind of... I mean, we still don't know exactly what kind of group they are, but they seem to be using guns and seem to be some kind of overpowered military guys or something. I don't know. We're gonna learn more about them throughout these 6 episodes, I assume. But this seems much more realistic villain rather than the very comic booky villain of the Whispers, which I still liked. But again, as I said, in season 10, they kind of shifted their take on the Whispers. In season 9, they were much more realistic and scary and terrifying and gritty. In season 10, it just fell into the philosophical bullshit hole that The Walking Dead just loves doing for some reason, and it's gotten old at this point. It's what almost killed the show in season 7 and 8. The music in this episode was also really great. I mean, ever since Angela Kang became a showrunner for this show in season 9, The Walking Dead has started using music again much more impactful ways, or at least I feel like. But especially in this episode, it was really amazing. Even in such benign scenes like when they went to Hilltop to see all the corpses which were there, which, by the way, I really like that scenes, because during the fight in season 10, in I believe it was like episode 11 or 12, I didn't really feel the war aspect of it. I didn't really feel the death of that battle. There was a little bit of a scene, I think, a little later when Negan took one person out of their misery by hitting them with a bat, because they were like, they had lost their hand or something. And that kind of gave me that vibe, but I feel like in this scene you much more feel the sacrifices and the death of this fight between the Whisperers and the survivors. I really like that scene. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. I honestly should have started with this, but am I the only one who sees Negan say fuck in the beginning of the episodes? Like, after he meets Maggie and says to her that he hasn't escaped, if that's what she's thinking, and she just walks by him, he says, well, shit. Or at least that's what we hear. That's what you audibly hear. But if you look very closely at Jeffrey Dean Morgan's mouth, he clearly says fuck. Like, come on, I cannot be the only one who thinks that way. I'm probably gonna put a video on the screen for you to see that he says fuck, but I don't know why the hell did AMC cover it like that. Were they not able to shoot the actual scene with the word shit? Are they keeping this for some kind of like the Blu-ray or something to have that in that thing, have him say fuck? Like, I don't get it. And honestly, talking about saying fuck on The Walking Dead, what the hell is AMC doing with not allowing all the shows to say fuck? Like, if you remember, I think it was in like 2017 when season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead was airing, there was few articles talking about the fact that all the Walking Dead shows would be able to say fuck at least twice a season. And Fear the Walking Dead actually used the word fuck twice in season 3, which is one of the many things that makes that season so freaking good. And in season 9 of the main show, there's that scene in the pit with between Rick and Daryl, in which Daryl says fuck. So what's the problem with saying fuck? You've already said it on both shows a couple of times, so why don't you allow it? It's either that they haven't allowed it for some reason, or for some reason I've just missed it. I don't know, maybe they've said it at some point during season 10, but I missed it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But it just bothers me, specifically in this scene in the beginning of this episode, because it's clearly Jeffrey Dean Morgan saying fuck, but it was being covered by the word shit. That's what bothers me, because they actually had him say fuck, but then they backtrack. And that's really, really annoying. So yeah, okay, I guess let's go over the episode as a whole, because I don't really think I can pick out all the good things that I really liked about this episode. At least I can't think of any other things, so let's just go over the episode and recap it a little bit. So in the beginning we have Maggie and Judith talking, which was a nice scene. Then we have Maggie seeing Negan. And also actually in the beginning when Maggie is talking to Judith, she throws a knife at a zombie. And when we show the zombie to the camera, you can see that the zombie is it's wearing a whisperer mask. Some people have used this to criticize the episode or AMC for being cheap or whatever. And even I at first, when I saw it, was like, oh, come on. I know that COVID is a problem, but couldn't you have done some better effects with this? But then you realize that this is just a dead whisperer. It's not the effects that the crew behind the scenes is using to create walkers just being lazy, but it's actually a whisperer who was wearing a mask and who has been killed. Like, if you remember, I believe it was in episode 3 of season 10, there was one whisperer that Carol ended up killing, and then at the end of the episode we have them wake up as a zombie. I don't think that's the same whisperer, although maybe it is, I don't know. But it's very clearly a dead whisperer, so for those of you who were criticizing it, there's your explanation for that. Okay, so after those two scenes, I think we have Dario and Carol meeting with Maggie again, and her introducing us to the two new characters, Elijah and Cole. If I gotta be honest, I honestly like these characters, and personally, I kind of like Cole a little more than Elijah. And if you don't know which one is which, Elijah is the guy with the mask, Cole is the guy with the swords. And yeah, I honestly like them a lot. I already liked the Elijah in the season 10 finale when he saved Gabriel in the nick of time. He was really badass with those, I forgot, sickles? Is that what they're called? I don't know. But in this episode, he didn't really talk either. He didn't talk in the finale, but he didn't talk in this episode either. So I wonder if he's gonna be mute, or is that just a thing for now? I don't know. And also, is he going to continue to be on the show in like season 11, or is he a character just for the 6 episodes? I'm assuming that he's probably going to be a character for the show going forward, like in season 10, because he was in the 16th episode, like what was supposed to be the finale. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah, then as I said earlier, we go to Hilltop, we see the death and destruction over there, and there's one little scene between Cole and basically the rest of the group where he makes it seem like he might be a little bit of a threat to maybe Negan or the community, because he's obviously being fed all these things about Negan and about the kind of person he is by Maggie, and she's completely right in saying those things to other people about Negan, but Negan has definitely changed, and it's already kind of been decided that he's free to live with them, you know, because he helped them defeat the Whisperers. But in that moment he asks, so are we supposed to go back and live with the person who killed Maggie's husband, who burned the hilltop? Which also brings me into another point about the way Carol told Maggie what happened. Like, she said that Negan was with the Whisperers when they torched the hilltop, implying that Negan is the one who caused this, when at worst he shot like one freaking arrow. It's not his fault, it wasn't his plan, he didn't do most of it, so why the hell did she blurt it out like that? I don't get it. I think Maggie understood that Carol meant that he was with the Whisperers to infiltrate them and kill Alpha, but the way they phrased it, maybe in the writing, or I don't know, it was just a little bit of a weird scene, although I still understood the gist of what they were meaning with that scene. And yeah, a lot of people have complained about this episode being just them walking in the woods. And even when I was watching it, even though I was like enjoying it because we haven't had a Walking Dead in a while, and I just love me Walking Dead episode, be it Fear or World Beyond or the main show, I just love the Walking Dead. I don't care really too much about the quality, I can watch anything as long as I'm not bored to death. But even when I was watching the episode, I was like, man, they're really just walking through the woods. Like, it is getting a little bit old, even though they still did cool enough things to make it interesting, and especially around the time where they were followed by the Reaper guy. I feel like even though people would say, oh, it's just random woods or something like that, I feel like in that moment the woods were at least how to say it, like I don't know how to say it in English, but it seems like the woods were a little tighter and it was harder to just walk around. You had to like crouch and do stuff. Like it felt like the shrubbery was a little tighter, so that kind of made it a little bit interesting for me. But yeah, in the middle part of the episode, not much happens other than explaining the new villains, where Maggie has been, which was fun, but also something about maybe the audio editing of this episode, or just the way, the accent that Lauren Cohen uses for Maggie just made me really unable to follow exactly what she's saying. Like, I'm not a native English speaker, but I am really, really good at speaking English. I even did a test by Cambridge recently, in which I ended up getting a C2 score, which means that I'm pretty much fluent at English. And I really struggled following exactly what she was talking about. It was very hard. I really had to pay attention quite a lot. And I don't really like watching, at least on first watch, I don't really like watching these episodes with subtitles, so that was a little frustrating, but I feel like I still got the gist of it. There was a couple of cool zombie kills in the scene where they were clearing the containers, I guess I should call them. Although there was one scene in which you just see the shadows of the walkers, which kind of made me feel like they were chipping it out because I mean, I shouldn't say chipping it out, but they were showing just the shadows because they didn't want to have more walkers because of COVID. I assume, at least, maybe it's just the way the scene came off to me, but that annoyed me a little bit because, yes, I get it. It's a tough situation to shoot a show in, but I still don't like that affecting the show that much. Like, I can buy it and I understand and accept it, but it still bothers me. Like, there's nothing I can do about it. So that bothered me a little bit. Then afterwards, I think we had the scene with Kelly, who was looking for Connie still. I really hope they bring Lauren Ridloff for season 11, because what would be the point if they don't? Like, they really build up this relationship between her and Daryl in the first half of season 10 and the second half of season 9, and I really like that relationship. She's the first character that I feel like fits being a significant other to Daryl, and we're gonna get into significant others of Daryl in the next episode, more in the next episode, but she's the first character that I feel like really fits with Daryl. I've never really been into the Carol train, and I don't really understand why people like that kind of relationship between them that much. Because I don't really, even though like they're very good friends, I think their relationship is more interesting when they are friends, not lovers or significant others. While with Connie, it just feels natural. Daryl is not the kind of person that really talks a lot. Connie is deaf and mute, so it's like a perfect relationship. You know, they're perfect for each other. So I really hope we get to see more of that in season 11, because it's going to be the last season of the main show. So they have to complete these storylines. Like, they can't leave them out, or maybe they're gonna decide to leave the storyline for the Daryl and Carol show. I don't know. But yeah, there's that scene in which Kelly is looking for Connie. She finds a truck in the middle of the fucking woods. Why the fuck is there a truck in the middle of the woods? I have completely no idea, and it's not like it's near a road or anything. It's just in the middle of the woods with no explanation or reason whatsoever. But that was a little bit of an interesting scene about Elijah as well, because apparently he also recently lost a sister, and I just love how he quickly ninja'd his way up the truck and grabbed the jacket that was on top of it. That was really cool. seems like it's going to be a pretty interesting character, but so far, for some reason, I just like Cole more. He feels like a little more rough around the edges, and the fact that he spoke definitely helped me be interested into them. But who knows? He kind of has the same energy that, or at least I kind of like him for the same reason that I like Dante. I feel like he just has some charisma that really makes him interesting to me. I don't know. Although I've seen some people complain about him basically being knockoff Jesus, because they killed Jesus last season in a very cool way, and I actually like his death. But some people are just gonna complain that the show kills comic characters and gives the cool storylines of comic characters to show original characters, which I don't really see what's the big deal that much, because we've had the comic character, they've done a couple of cool stuff, but the fact that the show also gets to have its own original characters that get just as iconic, if not more iconic sometimes, it's cool. Like, I don't mind it that much. I know that this show is supposed to be an adaptation, but it doesn't have to be a page-for-page adaptation. So around that time we have the reveal about the Reapers and the fact that they followed Maggie from wherever she came. So I think they end up afterwards looking for the rest of their group who had escaped a burning building, and they're looking also for Herschel, who is Maggie's son. And Dario stumbles upon one person, and he literally holds a knife to her neck. And first of all, I just want to point out something really funny that I realized when I was watching reactions on YouTube. In that scene where Daryl holds her a knife to her neck, they literally play the cinema scene sound effect as a jump scare. Like, I didn't catch it when I first watched the episode, or at least I didn't think it was what I heard, but I'm very, very sure when watching reactions on people on YouTube, it literally sounds like it. Like, I'm gonna play it here, tell me if it doesn't sound like it, because to me it really does. And it is really funny. I really laughed when I found that out, but it doesn't really bother me too much. It just feels lazy and cheap, and something that people are definitely gonna mock them for if they find out. And it also was a little funny how Daryl reacted when Maggie told him that that's one of their people. He was like, sorry, as if like he didn't just hold a knife to her neck. It's just a really funny scene. I really enjoy that. I believe afterwards we have the scene with the 3 red shirts, where they talk to Maggie about what had happened and how the house went up in flames and everything. And they literally die right afterwards. When I was watching the episode, I was literally like, well, they're dead. They're definitely dead. Even though 2 of the characters, like the black girl and the white girl, whose names I just don't know, I like that they're that forgettable, to be honest. They seem like they could have been interesting characters, but I guess it would have been too much to introduce like another 3 or 4 characters in this episode. But hey, so they start being shot at by this Reaper guy, and it was really feeling threatening in that moment when he was shooting at Maggie and Daryl, even though obviously they had plot armor because the other 3 characters all died because of that gun and this guy, but Maggie and Daryl completely survived it without even a scratch. But with how close he was shooting to them, it felt a little threatening. Like, it was pretty cool scene there. Then Maggie goes and faces him off, and honestly, that was a really cool fight scene with the Reaper, with how Maggie stabbed him and he just pulled the knife out, and Dario shot him with the crossbow and he just broke the arrow. Like, he's like a freaking beta or something. Like, beta was just like that, threatening like this. Like, they literally did another beta with this guy, and he even just grabs and smashes Dario in the tree, and that was really funny and really unexpected. That was really cool. that really allowed this character, even though he was like a one-off thing, to feel threatening. And I can't wait to see other YouTubers' reaction, because so far I've watched like 2 YouTube video reactions, but I'm really excited to check out Blind Wave's reaction to this episode, because they're my favorite reaction channel, if I gotta be honest. But it was a really entertaining scene. It was really cool. Then once everybody surrounds him, and I gotta say, I loved how Connie showed up holding Daryl's crossbow. That was really cool. When everybody surrounds him, he pulls a grenade, or the pin of the grenade off of it, and says to Maggie that Popped marked her. And when I watched the episode, as I said, because I didn't watch with subtitles, I had no idea what the hell he said. If I gotta be completely honest, what I heard him saying was that he said "bye bye Jew" or something. Like, at least the ending of the sentence that he said to me sounded like Jew, but apparently he actually says Pope marked you, as in some kind of religious pope, I assume. I don't know. I'm really curious where they're going to go with this villain group, because if they actually play into the religious side of things, it would fit right in as a villain group after the Whisperers, who have also been kind of like a religious cultish kind of thing. And it just feels right, considering that we had very similar kind of groups for a while. Like, we had the Governor. Technically, you could say we had him twice, and the same kind of villain. Or you can say that we had the Governor and the Saviors, which are very similar kind of villains who just want to take stuff or kill people for the sake of killing people. We had the Wolves and the Cannibals from Terminus, who both feel very similar to each other, I would say. They just kill people. And we have the Whisperers, who are a religious cult, kind of, and this group, who also seems like to be some kind of a cult, but we don't know yet. I would really love it if they actually play into the religious cult side of things, because that would be really entertaining to me. And this is a little bit of a theory, but I'm guessing that that character, which the famous actor Robert Patrick, who is going to be in one of the next few episodes, I think it's the Gabriel and Aaron episode in which he's going to be featured. I think the character that he plays in that episode is going to be the Pope. I think he's the Pope. It's not being confirmed, so it's technically not a spoiler, but I think that's what's gonna happen. He's gonna be revealed to be the Pope, because you can't have this amazing popular actor and just have him be a one-off random character. But again, it depends on whether they're going to have the Reapers crossover to season 11, or whether they're just gonna be a villain for these 6 episodes. But I guess we're gonna find out eventually. So we have the scene there with everybody surrounding that guy. He pulls the pin, he blows himself up, and people have criticized that scene for everybody surviving unscathed. Because everybody was very close to him and he just completely disintegrates, like there's nothing left of him. And Maggie, Daryl, Kelly, and all the rest are completely fine without a scratch. And I agree, it is a little bit of an unrealistic take on an explosion. They would have, in the real world, died in that situation. But what I want to say is that that is definitely not plot armor. Plot armor is when a character survives a situation just because they are an important character. Like, for example, in an earlier scene when the Reaper was shooting at them, the 3 red-shirt characters died very easily, but Maggie and Daryl survived. That is plot armor, because in this situation the non-main characters died, but the main characters survived. In the situation with the grenade, everybody who was around the guy survived, like all the supporting characters like Kelly, Elijah, and Cole survived, and all the red shirts, I think it was like 2 more people with bows, they also survived, and Rick and Daryl and Maggie also survived. So it's not plot armor. And then in the following scene, we get the introduction to Herschel Jr. And honestly, I already like him. He was really adorable, just sitting on a tree and him throwing a rock at his mom to get her attention. Uh, I just feel the same way about him as I did for Judith. They're just so, both of them are so adorable, and I can't wait to see them interact with each other. I hope we actually see that happen in the next 6 episodes and not have to wait until season 11, but I guess we're gonna see and find out. But with the way that they handled his introduction, I'm hopeful that they're not gonna screw up the character the way they did in the comics. And I'm not gonna spoil it if you wanna read the comics, but it wasn't great. That's all I'm gonna say. So yeah, afterwards it's the end of the episode where we have everybody going back to Alexandria, and apparently before leaving, the Whisperers have destroyed it a little bit, or as Carol says, they've left a parting gift. Which I guess it's fine as a thing that they did, although it doesn't really make that much sense, because if you remember in the supposed season finale, we had Aaron and Alden, who had stayed behind in Alexandria to keep an eye on the Whisperers. They were in the windmill. They were hiding in the windmill, and they also kept following the Whisperers after they left Alexandria, so they would have had to wait for the Whisperers to leave Alexandria and then leave after them, because they were following them. So they would have already known if the Whisperers had destroyed Alexandria. So that doesn't really make that much sense, unless the Whisperers destroyed Alexandria after Beta was killed in the season finale, which I'm willing to buy that is the case, but after that point they don't really have a leader, so why the fuck would they give a shit about that? They probably would just scatter or just die because the survivors killed them. But yeah, we have at the end of the episode actually a really cool scene with Maggie just walking in Alexandria, and Negan looking at her and her child, and this really good song plays into it. I really like that. It was a really great scene. It's probably the most impactful scene, because she, as she said earlier in the episode, she's going to look past Negan if it means her child is going to be safe living in Alexandria. And that's a really good signifier of that. She doesn't like Negan, she's never going to forgive Negan or tolerate him, but she's willing to look past him and ignore him for the sake of her child being safe, you know? And I really like that scene, and the way Negan looks at her, it's just like everything in that scene is just shown through looks, not dialogue, just looks, and I really love that. So yeah, that was the episode. To be honest, this episode really feels like a premiere of a season, not really a continuation or whatever, but I guess it makes sense because this feels like it feels like a mid-season premiere, ultimately. And even though some people love to have high expectations for mid-season finales and mid-season premieres, in the Kang era, that's not really the case. A lot of random things happen a lot of cool things happen in random episodes, and the mid-season finales and mid-season premieres are not always the greatest episodes. And even though I feel like this one is about average in terms of quality, I still really enjoyed it, and there was still plenty of cool things about it that I liked. And especially considering the measures under which they shot these episodes, like considering the fact that they didn't plan on having these episodes, they did a pretty good job. Introduced a new villain, explained everything about Maggie and where she was, and introduced a bunch of new cool characters. Like, considering all the background stuff surrounding this episode, it was actually pretty solid. Of course, these are not going to be the best episodes. They were never meant to be. They were never meant to exist. So, the best way to explain this episode is going to be mainly filler that explores the characters a bit more. So if you look at it from that kind of perspective, I think you're going to enjoy these episodes a little more. And going forward, that's kind of the perspective with which I'm going to be looking at these episodes. Yeah, I still enjoyed it a lot, but it's not really my favorite episode or anything. I do like the new villains though, so yeah, I'm pretty excited for the rest of the season. In terms of a rating, how am I going to rate this episode? think I think I'm gonna give this episode a 7.6 out of 10. It was a good episode, but not really the craziest or the best or anything. It was enjoyable, maybe a little average, but it wasn't bad. And people who just complain whenever an episode of The Walking Dead is not the best thing ever really piss me off. Not every episode has to be the best. If every episode was the best, no episode would be considered good. There has to be ups and downs for you to be able to actually feel those highs. Like, you need to have a low point for a show for you to be able to enjoy the high points. I've personally found myself enjoying a season whenever it comes after a bad season. Like, for example, with the main show, season 9 for me is so much more elevated in quality because of how bad season 7 and 8 were, and maybe even 6 you could say. And for Fear the Walking Dead, I love season 6 partially because of how bad season 4 and 5 were. Like, the fact that they came after bad seasons just make them that much better for me. So I don't really mind that this episode is not the best ever. That just means that whenever we get an actual really good episode, I'm gonna enjoy that much more. But I'm also not really that picky in terms of quality in general, so I don't know. I guess it's up to you. And yeah, those are my thoughts on this episode. What did you guys think? Comment down below. I'm really interested to hear your thoughts and maybe discuss it a little bit, but ultimately it's up to you. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe. Also, check out the link in the description to my Twitter if you want to follow me there, and to my Wattpad where I post my stories, because in addition to doing all these videos on my channel, I'm also a writer. And if you end up enjoying my stories, or you simply enjoy my videos, you can head over to Patreon where you can pledge your support and help get the channel going. Help support me so I can keep writing the stories you enjoy. But if you don't want to do it, that's completely fine. You can still help me out in other ways, like liking this video, subscribing, and especially sharing this video with somebody who you think might enjoy it. And I think that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!